Hello everyone, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. A new series.
No one cares, man. It's a new show, who cares? No one likes your channel.
I was hoping for a more positive reaction, but I guess we can move on. So we're going to be talking about the J League today. I'm just going to be going through the fixtures, going to be taking you through the results and the table of one of my favourite leagues to support as a neutral. If a lot of people talking about Bundesliga, Syria, no. J League is the best league to follow as a neutral, and I will show you why. Because it is very competitive, ridiculously competitive in fact. Plenty of teams on offer to win the league or go down. This season isn't the best example of it, if I'm being honest, now that I think about it. But it is a genuinely interesting league, and a lot of people might be put off because it's Japan, and a lot of Japanese culture tends to be quite nerdy or, you know, sort of pop culture-esque. But it's a fun league to follow, so let's get straight into it. So, the first game of the day is Shimizu S-Pulse against Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo. And Shimizu S-Pulse coming out 3-1 winners. And I actually spoke about in the last episode that I recorded for this, which I actually couldn't get out because my laptop wasn't powerful enough to edit my videos, so it completely messed up. But Shimizu have been in decent form, and they drew their last game, and they've actually managed to back it up with a win now. So they're up into 14th place, which is a lot better because they started off pretty poorly. And I was sort of worried for them. They didn't look like they had much going forward, but they've certainly turned it around, and they've solidified defensively. Some good goals as well. I think Hokkaido were pretty poor. Really good goal for them, actually. I think it was a free kick, really well struck. And at the time it put them level, but Shimizu just too good for them. 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game, in the 85th and added time as well. So a really good result for them against a very decent team, and a team that really should be knocking on the door of the top 4, but they're not. So disappointing result for Hokkaido Consadole. A bit of a strange season for them so far. They have the potential to be a good team. They're one of those teams where just a couple of additions, I think, defensively, and they would be okay. But they've got some great players like Song Krasin, Chanatip, I think is how you pronounce it. The Thai player, who of course is a fantastic player, and he has been in that division for some time. But overall, a very good result for Shimizu, and they move up into 14th and away from the relegation zone. Next, on to the biggest result of the weekend, not just because of the scoreline, but because of the teams involved. Nagoya Grampus against Urawa Reds, and Urawa really needed a win in this game. A win would have taken them into the top 4. A win would have taken them into the top 4 where Nagoya currently sit, and they got absolutely battered, 6-2, and 4 goals for Naoki Maeda. Sort of began to run out of celebrations by the time that he scored his 4th one. It was an absolutely nuts game. Honestly, it was ridiculous. They were 5-0 up at half time. Urawa defensively just all over the place. It was shocking to watch, if I'm being honest. So much space. They played such a high line. It was just almost like every single attack. Nagoya just looked so dangerous. They look good this year, Nagoya, actually. I've been impressed with them. A team that you wouldn't necessarily have as one of the sort of the top teams in the J League. They're a decent side, don't get me wrong. But yeah, they smashed them. Urawa were just shocking. Honestly, it was a really poor game from them defensively. They looked all over the place. The centre-backs were so high up, and the full-backs were really stretched. There was a few times when they got in behind on the left-hand side and just looked to completely overrun them. There was far too many gaps. They did get a couple of goals through Leandro, who is proving to be a very good goal scorer for them this season. One of the top goal scorers in the league. I think he's on about 7 or 8 goals now, which is pretty decent. But one of the goals I want to bring your attention to, if you can get the highlights on YouTube, so just watch it. Gabriel Javier's goal, absolutely ridiculous. Runs from the halfway line, all the way into the penalty area. I don't even think he got into the penalty area. Pretty much on the edge of the box and just curls it bottom corner. Fantastic goal. Again, though, slightly poor defensively. But another 2 goals for Leandro. He's pretty decent. He keeps up his record. But a fantastic win for Nagoya Grampus. They go into 4th place. Right, next game. Next game is Kashima against Sagan Toss. Kashima Antlers actually winning a game. I know, shocking. It was against Sagan Toss, who was a little bit... They're not great, bless them. But neither of Kashima, to be honest. Kashima have been poor this year. But 2-0, a pretty solid result for them. I don't think it was anything too spectacular. I think they were just a better team on the day. I mean, they sit in 12th now. And like I said, the league's really close. So if they can genuinely, get like 3 or 4 wins together, and they could shoot up the table very easily. One of the best things about this league is that literally it's like the championship almost. It's like, obviously the league's a lot smaller. There's 18 teams. But it genuinely is so close throughout the whole table. I mean, to be fair, the bottom teams are pretty terrible. But the teams, I'd say, 12th and above, have all got a decent chance of finishing top 3. So this is a big win for Kashima, who are obviously one of Japan's most successful clubs. You would hope that they would sort of push on a little bit, like Urawa. You would expect those two to really sort of push higher up the table than they are at the moment. Overall, do I think Kashima can push up the table? Certainly. Urawa and Kashima are in, like I say, in very similar situations at the moment, where they're 2 successful Japanese clubs that are just sort of struggling at the moment. So hopefully some more positive results to come for them, at least. Then on to easily the best team so far this season, Kawasaki Frontale. Another win, 2-0 against Oita Trinita, who are really struggling now. They are, after a decent start, they've almost fallen off a cliff. I mean, they just can't buy any sort of point at the moment. And Kawasaki Frontale, definitely not a team to play at the moment. Fantastic win again, 2-0. And you know what? They look so good this year. Honestly, I think they've won 8 and drawn 1. They're 6 points clear at the top of the table on 25 points. Gamba, Osaka are on 19. And I just can't see them dropping points. I mean, they've scored 23 goals in 9 games and they've conceded 6. So they're really a team that you sort of have to look out for and think, yeah, they're pretty set on winning the title this year. And to be honest, I can see them doing it. I don't think there's much stopping them at the moment. And another comfortable win for them, which sees them still the only team unbeaten. Who's going to beat them? I don't know. Gamba, Osaka obviously had the best chance of beating them, but they lost. So easily the early season front runners for the league, Kawasaki. And if there's a team that I would recommend watching, it's them, because they play some really nice football as well. Interesting to note as well, their second goal scorer, Leandro Damiao. So anyone who, I know he's linked with Spurs quite a few number of years ago. He's always sort of been in and around Leandro Damiao, but obviously he sort of dropped off a fair bit. But he's scoring goals for Kawasaki, so if anyone's interested in a bit of football trivia, then they'll know where he plays now. So interesting move for him. And yeah, like I say, great result for Kawasaki. Yokohama Marinos. What are we going to do with you, eh? The current champions, mid-table. This is what we're on about, okay? This is what this league does. Yokohama Marinos, mid-table, up against Kashima Vissel, the newly promoted side who are fighting for the top 3. And it ended in a 1-1 draw. And I think Kashima will be disappointed. They took the lead through, you guessed it, Michael Olunga, formerly of Granada, of course, scored a 22-minute hat-trick. A little bit of football trivia there for you. Michael Olunga has been an absolute monster for them ever since he joined. He joined them in the J2 League, scored about 30 goals there, and got like 8 in one game or something stupid like that. And he's on 10 goals now for the season already, having played 9 matches, for a newly promoted side. He's just too good, really, for that league. I think because he's so tall, Kenyan international, he's tall, he's physical. Japanese players aren't exactly, the height of physical prowess. They're quite small, they can be quite slight as well. He just looks so much quicker, so much stronger than all the other players, and his finishing ability is just superb. And he took his goal superbly. It almost looked like he was falling over, but he strokes it into the top corner. He's a super player. Kashima is super lucky to have him. Without his goals, they would definitely be fighting relegation. I mean, they've scored 20 goals. So he scored 50% of their goals. So, yeah, no, really impressive individual performance again from Olunga. And Yokohama getting an equaliser about 13 minutes from time. So they'll be disappointed with that as well. Yokohama sitting in 11th place. And despite Kashima Reysol being a newly promoted side, I think that they would have wanted to win this game. I think Yokohama Marinos have been very average this year. I do like them as a team, and Olunga is just superb to watch. He just takes the mick out of the J-League defences. So, very interesting team to keep an eye out for Kashima Reysol. Yokohama, maybe not so much. Not a lot of success with the Yokohama clubs this year. And speaking of the other Yokohama clubs, Yokohama FC losing away from home to Gamba Osaka. Gamba Osaka, of course, competing with Kawasaki Frontale and maybe Cerezo Osaka for the title. Really big win for them though, this one. Yokohama actually played really well. Very solid defensively. Gamba Osaka actually took the lead, but Yokohama equalised. A bit of a scrappy goal, to be honest. I think their striker went through and basically sort of just slipped as the goalkeeper came out to meet him. It fell to Koki Saito, who's definitely one of Yokohama's better players at the moment. But in the last minute, Patrick scores from a corner. The fans actually went pretty mental, and the players obviously were absolutely delighted. You know, if they've got to compete with Kawasaki, they've got to grind out some wins here and there. And Yokohama were resolute, but in the end, just not good enough. Disappointing for Yokohama, actually. Bit of a fairy tale story, of course. They do have Kazu, the 52-year-old striker, who actually played in the Levian Cup earlier this week. Hasn't featured much in the J-League, as you would expect. At his age, you know, as fit as he is, I'd imagine his legs won't be able to keep up with the pace of the J-League. But Gamba Osaka have surprised me this year. They are one of the bigger clubs in Japan, but they weren't fantastic last year at all. And they've really sort of sprung out of nowhere and looked very good. And I think they're certainly the best chance of any team sort of knocking Kawasaki off their perch. Having said that, of course, they did lose that early title 6-pointer. So it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to catch up. 6-point gap is decent, but at this stage of the season, it's nothing unassailable by any stretch of the imagination. So a solid win, and yet again, you know, keeping the pressure up. That's all they can do at the moment, to be honest. Now on to a very disappointing result again. If you are of the Vissel Kobe persuasion, losing 2-1 to Vegalta Sendai. Now, Vissel Kobe are very much an unusual team. They've spent a lot of money, they've brought in big name players. I think they are feeling the loss of David Villa, but they've never, even with the amount of money that they've brought in to get these foreign players like Podolski, David Villa, Iniesta, Thomas Vermaelen, you know, they have a decent squad for this league. And, you know, the J-League is competitive, it's not the highest standard. But they're just really struggling, and they're struggling for goals, and defensively they don't look particularly solid. I think despite Iniesta in midfield, I think that they get cut open far too easily. The goals they conceded in this game are comical. I mean, honestly, it was so embarrassing. I think it was Dankler, the centre-back pairing Vermaelen. He had an absolute stinker. I mean, the first goal, literally, it was just one of the Sendai players got to the touchline, crossed it in, and it literally just looped off his foot over the goalkeeper and in. And that was sort of the start of the whole sort of mediocre goals in this game. Second goal as well for Sendai was just shocking defending. Vermaelen and Dankler in no man's land. Dankler getting beaten by his man again. Couldn't get back across his own goal. It was played across goal and smashed in. And even Vissel Kobe's goal itself was pretty comical. They again, another cross across the face of goal. Their striker actually hit it onto the crossbar, and then it hit off the face of the Sendai goalkeeper and went in. So, unfortunate for Slovic. I think it's Slovic, the Polish goalkeeper. And again, good result for Sendai, to be fair. They needed that because they've been really struggling for results recently, and in a relegation battle that's so close, 3 points is absolutely huge for them. But big problems at Vissel Kobe. They've got a very nice kit, they've got a nice stadium, they've got a good supporter base, But if the performances don't pick up anytime soon, then they're still going to struggle. So, yeah, very disappointing for Kobe. I expected a lot more of them this season than they've shown so far. Now, onto a team which I have a special place in my heart, because I did visit Hiroshima, and so I've always kept an eye on Sanfrecce, and they're obviously in 8th place at the moment. They got a win last time out, beating Shonan Bellmare 1-0. Should have won by more. They absolutely dominated the game. Shonan showing why they're bottom of the league. They're sort of the whipping boys of the league at the moment. They are not very good, to put it nicely. They've won 1 of their last 5 games, and they've conceded quite a few goals. They just don't look cohesive as a unit. They don't look like they're going to score many chances. And Sanfrecce were confident in this game, and they were comfortable in this game. And that win sees them up to 8th place, 13 points now. Which, if you look at the top 3, with Cerezo on 18, 5 points difference. 5 points difference. So there's definitely a chance there. There is a bit of a gap opening. I will say that. There is a bit of a gap opening, especially after this game week. But it's very much an open season in terms of that top 3 spot. And Sanfrecce, I don't think will make it. They haven't really shown the signs of making it. But if they can get top 6, I think that would be a decent finish for them. Nothing too special, but nothing too disappointing either. Now, on to another disappointment, actually. FC Tokyo. What has happened to them? I'll tell you what, this league is incredible in how inconsistent it is. Of course, FC Tokyo and Yokohama Marinos were fighting with Kawasaki Frontale last season for the title, with Yokohama coming on top. I think Kawasaki came 2nd and FC Tokyo came 3rd. Of course, the former team of Takefusa Kubo plays for Real Madrid now, well, Mallorca, but 0-0, another 0-0 draw against Cerezo Osaka, which doesn't suit either team, to be honest. I mean, this would normally have been a big game if Tokyo had been in a bit better form. But they're in 6th place now. Cerezo remain in 3rd. This was a really, really big chance for Cerezo. They'll be disappointed. If they'd have won this, they would have gotten to 20 points. 5 points behind Kawasaki Frontale. And it really 2 points dropped, I think, for both teams. I think that it was a very even game, 0-0, maybe not. I think a draw was a fair result, but it was disappointing it was 0-0 because there was quite a few chances that both sides actually created. I think that Tokyo at the moment, whilst they look like they can create chances, they haven't been as clinical as they were last year. And Cerezo the same thing, really. This game was sort of just a tale of missed chances for both sides. It wasn't the highest quality of games, but it wasn't the worst 0-0 you'll ever see. But it's not a good result for either of those teams, to be honest, because they both needed wins to try and challenge again for that top 3, and more so Cerezo for the title. So, yeah, that battle between the two Osaka clubs is getting very close. And I think you'll see them sort of switch places quite often in 2nd and 3rd. But FC Tokyo, I mean, I don't know what's happened, to be honest. The loss of Takefusa Kubo cannot be underestimated. But they lost him halfway through last season, so I'm not sure why all of a sudden they've struggled. I mean, 14 goals scored, 12 goals conceded says it all. They're just far too... They're not strong enough at the back, and they're not scoring enough goals, which is a very obvious statement to make. It's a real drop-off from last year, where they were quite high scorers. And they haven't won in their last 4 games now, which is a worrying sign. 3 draws. And I think that will be their issue this year. They're getting too many draws, very much like Leipzig in the Bundesliga. They're just not winning enough games. They're not losing too many, but they've only lost 2 in their opening 9, which is not too bad, to be honest. But it would only be not too bad if they'd have won 6 or 7 of those 9 games. They haven't. They've won 4. So, yeah, very disappointing for them. And I think for me, I hope that they do better. I do have a soft spot for FC Tokyo. I really enjoyed watching them play last year with Kubo. And they've got some decent players like Leandro and Artur Silva. They've got some decent little players, Nagoya as well. So I do like their team. They've got a nice little squad. But yeah, they're struggling at the moment. And I think for me, I just hope that they improve, because we could do with a bit more competitiveness, because Kawasaki are running away with it at the moment. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for this week of the J-League show. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly have. A bit of a more talky show, I guess, a bit more like Match of the Day. I would love to get some highlights in, but I don't want to get copyright striked. So, unfortunately, I can't bring that to you. But I'll try and make it fun with the editing. But I hope you enjoyed the episode. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I hope to see you in the next one.